Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, taking a surreptitious, sexually intrusive photo up a woman's skirt is known as upskirting. And it's set to become a specific criminal offence thanks to a bill before Parliament today. Here's Ellie Price with more.
It's pervy, certainly weird, but it isn't a sex crime yet. It's called upskirting, and it happened to 26-year-old Gina Martin at a music festival last year when she was wearing this. She reported the guy, nothing happened, so she launched a campaign to change the law.
It was humiliating, and I saw the pictures, everyone else looking at them, and they were really close up on my crotch. I felt like sort of exactly the same as if someone had grabbed me, you know, because my body had been sort of, my autonomy had been taken away, and I didn't really have any choice over how my body was seen, and it really felt horrible.
There is a law at the moment that exists that kind of deals with it, but obviously you don't think it goes far enough.
No, yeah, so it's an 100-year-old common law, which basically is outraging public decency. So it says that the public have been outraged having to see something happen but fails to recognise there's a victim. And also you can't prosecute with it in many different scenarios. There's many rules, so two people have to have been able to see it, lots of different things you have to satisfy. And also it's a public nuisance order, so you're just slapping a public nuisance on a sexual offence, and these guys aren't prosecuted as sexual offenders. So.
Has it stopped you wearing skirts? I noticed you're wearing a pair of trousers.
Yeah, I've learnt today. No, it hasn't. It hasn't. At first it kind of did. I was going to a festival and I didn't want to pack any skirts because I was nervous. And I think about it now when I wear a skirt. You know, I went out on the tube and I'm thinking about it because I'm worried because it's happened to me. But now, no, it won't stop me wearing a skirt because there's no reason that I should change the way I dress because of, you know, some guys out there who like doing that and like harassing and upsetting women.
Gina's campaign has already got backing from across the political divide, and she's been working with the Ministry of Justice. MPs will discuss a change in the law later. The question is whether that's the right solution.
Ellie Price reporting there. Well, the Lib Dem MP Vera Hobhouse is behind the bill to make upskirting a specific crime. She's in the House of Commons. Welcome to the programme, Vera. So you've got government support. How pleased are you?
Yeah, I think it's very positive that the government has come behind this bill. We have cross-party support, so there is a consensus that there's a gap in the law that we need to fill. It's a modern crime facilitated by very fast advancing modern technologies, so that the government has come behind this is very, very positive. But I have to say we are not over the red line yet. Today in the House, anybody can object to this, and that might still happen.
And what would happen then if they did object?
Well, then I would have to go to the next state and go through the whole procedure again. It would be very disappointing because really this has been such a positive campaign with Gina Martin, the government minister, and me working all together, and we had the consensus. And really, clearly, nobody in their right mind could think that there is anything that is actually against the bill itself. It's an amendment to an existing bill. In 2009, it was actually made a criminal offence in Scotland, so it's already been in place for a long time in parts of the United Kingdom, and we just want to create the same rights for all women and anybody who would be victim to this offence across the United Kingdom.
Such invasive behaviour is currently prosecuted, isn't it, at the moment under either the offence of outraging public decency or as a crime of voyeurism under the Sexual Offences Act. So what's the difference?
The difference is to actually make this bill centering on the victim, because in the current legal provision there needs to be a witness to that this crime has been committed, whereas what we are trying to achieve is that it is between a victim and a perpetrator, not somebody who's actually observing it.
And is the idea then that the sentencing would be harsher, that people could be jailed for longer?
Currently, there is no jail sentence attached to a public decency offence, but the highest penalty would be 2 years in jail if you were convicted to this offence.
Right. So it's not just a question of rebadging what already exists in that sense?
Oh no, it's a real change in the law. It would make a real difference, and it would make a difference to women, how women feel, how they can go about, or go like Gina to a concert, or just sit on a bus. I mean, it happens on a daily basis. It's quite a hidden hidden crime. Nobody has really been able to put a name to it, and this law would bring the public attention to it and the public discussion that we need, but also a law under which we can actually prosecute properly.
OK, well, Vera Hobhouse there, the Liberal Democrat MP in Central Lobby, who is behind this private member's bill on upskirting, and no doubt we'll catch up with you to find out what happens today.
A Conservative MP has blocked an attempt to make so-called upskirting a criminal offence. The Voyeurism Offences Bill was expected to get the nod through the House of Commons after the Ministry of Justice indicated its support. But Sir Christopher Chope, the MP for Christchurch, sounded his objection to the bill, leading to cries of shame in the Commons. Well, the private member's bill was put forward by the Liberal Democrat MP, Vera Hobhouse. She joins me now. Many thanks indeed for joining us today. Is Sir Christopher on his own for this?
Yes, I think it's really very frustrating and very annoying that one member of parliament can completely break up, as it seems, not break up, but block a consensus that had been built over several weeks and months between the campaigners, the Ministry of Justice, and lots of MPs across the House. And in fact, a poll this morning showed 96% of people in this country are behind the change in the law. One member of parliament can block this. It's shameful. It's annoying. It's not the end of the road, but I'm very angry.
Why did Sir Christopher block it?
Oh, I think it's just on a general principle that he doesn't like private members' bills, it seems. He thinks government should give every bill debating time. He has said to us, actually, he hasn't got anything against the bill. It's just a process. And just to put a process against the right thing to do seems to be such a petty thing to do.
I guess there are some questions, and I guess they are valid questions, about how far we go with this, because what happens when it's an 18-year-old teenager who carries out a stupid prank? It is stupid, it is unnecessary, it is immature, but it's a prank nonetheless to maybe show off in front of his friends. And then he gets convicted of this crime, gets put on the sex offenders register. I mean, that could have an effect on his life going forward.
The judge will have discretion, and absolutely, if it's meant to be a prank, then the penalty isn't as harsh. But there are penalties for those who commit the crime as a clear sexual offence. But there's discretion, and you're absolutely right. We need to make sure that we don't have lists and lists of sex offenders where people have done it as a prank. But I would say to young people, they should think very hard about what is fun and joke and what isn't. And I think we want to send out a very clear message that this isn't funny, it's humiliating, it's degrading, it's put women into a very awkward position, and it is a victim, it is a crime, and there's a victim, and whoever thinks of trying to do this should stop it.
Vera, do you think the law is up to date with social media and technology? Because the reason that this is happening is because people have access to mobile phones, iPhones, I can take pictures, but the law isn't or doesn't appear to be up to date.
Indeed, and it is a gap in the law, and in fact, the government was very positive about, being at the forefront of responding to new technology and modern crimes, and it would have been such a positive sign for the Conservative government to show that they are actually on top of things and that they can respond quickly. And so their own backbencher has now destroyed it for them, which is, well, it's not destroyed, but delayed definitely. We had some clear signs from the ministers that they do not want to give up on it, and hopefully it will come back and it will happen. But it's very annoying that today we couldn't make progress.
Talk us through the process which has allowed this bill to be thwarted in such a way.
All that needed to happen today, the title of the bill was read out in the Commons, and I was asked to say when the second reading should be, and I said now, so the second reading would have been today, and at that point the MP said object. So I was then asked for the next date, which is now the 6th of July, but that can go on in perpetuity unless we can actually make sure that everybody is on board with taking this forward. And then it would go forward to its process into a committee stage and then a third reading. There's complicated parliamentary procedure that I don't want your viewers to bore with, but today would have been the next step forward, and unfortunately it's been delayed now.
And how long are we talking about before it is made law?
To be quite honest, it depends on further delays or whether it can go smoothly forward. It always takes a bit of time, so it would have only probably become law if it had gone forward today by the autumn. But you know, it's a proper delay, and every month matters. We are in concert season and festival season, and what happened to Gina Martin, the campaigner, was just that she was a photo was taken under her skirt during an open air concert. You know, these sort of things happen all the time, and unfortunately, today we couldn't stop it, but hopefully we will be able to do it in the future.
Vera, does it send the right message to women? I mean, one suggestion that I've seen earlier on today is the notion that once again it makes the women feel as the victim, so the whole world is against them.
Well, it doesn't look good, does it? You know, and it wasn't only women who supported this, men across the board as well. But, you know, a man objects to something that protects women, young women, children as young as 10, and where there was a victim as young as 10, from being victim of this heinous sort of practice, is really sad. And it doesn't send the right messages for the person who's objected to this.
Is this one of those cases where we do need to focus more on the victim as opposed to the perpetrator?
Well, absolutely, and it was only a small amendment, and in fact this law already exists in Scotland. We only wanted to do the same across the United Kingdom, for that all women are protected across the United Kingdom. This law is already in force in Scotland since 2009, so there's a precedent. We knew exactly what we were going to introduce, and unfortunately we couldn't today.
OK, Vera Hophouse, appreciate your time, thank you.
A law which would have made it a criminal offence to take upskirting photos has been derailed after a single Conservative MP objected. Supporters of the move, which was backed by the government, shouted shame as Sir Christopher Chope made his objection, while campaigners said they were extremely upset and disappointed. The government says it is committed to making sure it becomes a criminal offence, as Martha Holyman reports.
Voyeurism Offences Bill, second reading.
No. Objection taken. Second reading.
Shame, MP shouts. Shame that a new law to criminalise upskirting had just been blocked. Upskirting is the disturbing act of taking a photo or video up someone's skirt without their consent. In many cases, it isn't currently a criminal offence in England and Wales. Difficult to believe, as these extraordinary pictures show how it can happen so casually and so unexpectedly. But a sense of change was in the air after the government only yesterday backed a private member's bill to finally make it illegal.
We're backing the bill to ensure that upskirting is an offence because it's an invasion of privacy, and it's important that we send a strong message that this sort of behaviour can't be tolerated.
Today, the bill was expected to pass its second reading in the Commons, but it was blocked by Conservative MP Sir Christopher Chope, who says he objects to private members' bills as a way of making laws. For bill sponsor Vera Hophouse, the frustration goes much further.
The law would have been gender neutral, but still it affects particularly women. That a bloke objects to it just doesn't seem right. It seems out of touch.
Upskirting was made illegal in Scotland almost 10 years ago. In England and Wales, it's more difficult. Victims could try and prosecute for voyeurism, but that would only work if the act happened in a private place, which usually it wouldn't. Or there's outraging public decency. This requires for the image to be indecent. In other words, for the victim to not be wearing underwear. The campaign for change has been largely fronted by this woman, 26-year-old Gina Martin, who was a victim of upskirting herself at a festival last summer.
He had WhatsApp open and there was a picture of like a upper girl's skirt, but it was probably like only that far from her crotch, you know, really right between her legs. And I just knew it was me immediately because of how they were, and I knew what I was wearing, and I saw it and I was like, that's me. And I grabbed the phone off him and I like held it up and I was like, you've been taking pictures of my skirt, what is wrong with you? And I was crying.
For the past 12 months, Gina has been lobbying Parliament. Only yesterday, a photo full of elation posted on Instagram of her stood next to her lawyer after change seemed to be on the horizon.
Well, earlier I spoke to Gina Martin, who you saw in that piece, who campaigned for upskirting to be made illegal. And I began by asking her how she felt after today's events in Parliament.
I'm annoyed, obviously, and it's difficult to watch. I'm pretty disappointed, as you can imagine. It's been a year of long, long, hard work, but I'm hopeful and I'm still positive because the entire government is behind me. and this doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
And I hear that Christopher Chope has agreed to meet you. How's that going to pan out? What are you going to say to him?
Yeah, so after he objected to the bill, we left the house and I went over and introduced myself and asked him just to tell me in his words why he objected to the bill. And he basically said he objected to it on principle because it wasn't debated. He didn't have any issues with what we presented in the bill and the legislation. So he agreed to meet with me and I agreed to tell him more about upskirting. That was a very nice conversation, actually. So there's a real hope there from me that we can bring him around and we can have a real positive chat with him.
Let me take you back to the beginning of your campaign. Why did you do this? What happened to you?
I started this campaign because it happened to me at a festival last year. 2 guys took upskirt photos of me. I saw the photos on their friend's phone and I took the phone to the police and the police were very confused about the law and they said there's not much they can do. That's why I started it.
You snatched the phone off the alleged perpetrator. I mean, that was quite a courageous thing to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just was so bored of, things happening and brushing it off and brushing it under the carpet. I just really wanted to do something about this. And also, immediately after I did that, so many messages from women and girls as soon as I put the petition up that it had happened to, so it was very obvious I had to keep going. And obviously, now we're here, the government's backed the bill. Yes, there's been an objection, but that's not the end of it.
When you think about what happened to you originally, then you started the campaign, you got horribly trolled online.
Yeah.
Then you have Chris Chope in the Commons today blocking this legislation.
Yeah.
What does that say to you, taken as a whole, about the way women in Britain are treated?
We don't fully get it yet. We need to have more conversations about this societally. There is, and that's something I'm really proud of in the campaign. Obviously, the end game is to change the law, which we will do, but just as important is the conversation that we've started around this, and that it's not okay, and that, you wearing a skirt doesn't mean that you deserve to get sexually assaulted.
Gina Martin, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well, I'm joined now by the Culture Minister, Margot James. When Christopher Chope says that he was taking a principled stand against private members' bill not giving sufficient time for debate, does he have a point?
No, I don't think so, Kathy. He was elected in 1983 and he's very attached to various procedures and so forth in Parliament, and he's objected to countless private members' bills, which is very frustrating. His argument is that somewhere in the system they don't get enough scrutiny. But in fact, this bill would have had its debate and then gone into committee where it would have been fully scrutinised. So it's a great shame. I feel extremely sorry for Gina Martin and Vera Hobhouse, who've worked so hard, along with other women across party, to get this abhorrent practice outlawed.
And
but,
indeed,
we will get it made illegal, no doubt about it.
I'll come on to that. I mean, she's been campaigning for this for a year, and a member of your party then scuppers it. Do you feel ashamed to sit on the same benches as him? Do you think he's brought your party into disrepute?
Well, he certainly has today. He's a maverick. He doesn't speak for our party. The government and countless colleagues of mine on the Conservative side of the House have been incandescent today. But people have confidence in the government. We are determined to outlaw this practice. The bill today was a very good vehicle, and I'm particularly disappointed as Digital Minister that it was obstructed in this way, because it's really important that the law keeps pace with technological change. Unfortunately, technological change, gives this minority of men more opportunities to harass women, and we have to get the law on our side to deal with the matter. But that we will definitely do. It'll just take a bit longer, which is a great shame.
Well, how much longer? I mean, is there a bill even that this could be attached to going through Parliament at the moment?
Well, there might be. We will look into that. I mean, we will work across party with women in all parties to look for the ideal vehicle. We will take the first opportunity to attach it to a bill, as you say, or to introduce it in government time. That will take longer because of timetabling and so forth. But all I can say at the moment is that we will take the earliest opportunity to render this abhorrent practice illegal.
If Sir Christopher Chope doesn't speak for your party, as you said, should he have the whip suspended? I mean, he was given a knighthood just a few months ago. Should that be reconsidered?
Well, I don't think we would go down that path, Kathy, honestly. I mean, this is a private member's business. He doesn't speak for the party. He's a backbench Conservative MP. And, you know, as I said, he was elected in 1983. He has strong opinions about how Parliament works, and that's what this is all about. It's nothing to do with the content of the bill. As I say, he's objected to countless bills. Unfortunately, the procedures allow him to do this.
Well,
you know, there is an argument perhaps for looking at the procedures.
Well, the procedures do allow it if it's a private member's bill. But if the government cared so much about this whole issue, you could have brought it in as a government bill ages ago, years ago, like Scotland has.
Well, I suppose it only really came to my attention, to be honest, this year, in fact, when I answered a debate brought by Meg Hillier, the Labour MP, on a similar and related subject. And as soon as I heard about it and answered that debate, I committed to Meg and to Wera that we would back her bill, Wera Hobbs-House's bill. And that was really been the first opportunity that we have had to tackle this in the British Parliament. I accept Scotland have got ahead, and good on them for doing so. But all I can say at the moment is that we will make this practice illegal as soon as we can.
Margot James, thank you very much for joining us.
An attempt to make upskirting, where photos are secretly taken up a woman's skirt, a specific criminal offence in England and Wales, has been blocked by one Conservative MP. He shouted "object" to the bill in the House of Commons, effectively stopping it, leading to cries of shame from other MPs. Tonight, the Prime Minister says she is disappointed the plans were stopped. Our political correspondent Eleanor Garnier reports.
I was at a festival with my sister on a blistering hot day, waiting for my favourite band to come on stage, and two guys took pictures of my skirt.
Secretly taking photographs or filming under someone's clothes, a violation of privacy known as upskirting, and it happened to Gina Martin. Scotland has had its own laws on upskirting for a decade, and the practice was on course to becoming a criminal offence in England and Wales, until one MP said this.
Objection taken. Second reading.
With one word, the Conservative MP, Sir Christopher Chope, derailed the plan,
Hospital car parks and charges
from others in the
Second
Commons.
reading.
He spent years snuffing out bills put forward by backbench MPs, arguing they need proper scrutiny. A Liberal Democrat MP had teamed up with Gina Martin to bring this law to Parliament, and she had this message for the Tory politician.
Grow up, but also grow into the 21st century. It doesn't look good that a white, middle-aged bloke is stopping something that is a modern crime, particularly against women.
This bill does have the strong support of the government, and it will be heard in the Commons again next month. But Sir Christopher Chope's objection has certainly slowed down its passage.
It's rubbish because it's obviously a year of ridiculous work. I mean, it was July it happened, we're coming up to almost a year, and it's been every single day, every morning and every night I've been working on this for a year. So I'm upset, of course. I didn't expect this to shoot through and it be the easiest thing in the world. There might be obstacles, that's what politics is, but politics is also not stopping. So that's what we do, we don't stop.
Eleanor Garnier, BBC News, Westminster.
And as I said, we are joined tonight by Sebastian Payne and Dalia Gabriel. A very good evening again. Nice to see you. Sebastian, let's start with this story. It's an unbelievable story, really. It's something that a lot of people may not have heard of before. Upskirting, this horrible practice where men take photographs, usually on their mobile phone, up women's skirts. And legislation was going through the Commons, a private member's bill, to stop this practice by making it illegal, and yet it's been stopped by a Conservative MP.
Yes, this is Sir Christopher Chope, nicely pictured here on the Daily Express, who has a big problem with private members' bills because he feels they don't give legislation the proper scrutiny and they're often pushed through on Friday mornings when no one's really watching without sort of getting the proper things you'd expect for a piece of legislation. So, as per he's done with this and many other private members' bills to address legitimate concerns, he blocked it. And it's pretty disgraceful stuff, actually, because this bill was introduced by a Lib Dem MP. The government government was all behind it. Everybody expected it to go through. It was briefed out. It was going to go through. And he just looks like a complete fool, to be quite honest, you know. And the comments from Conservative MPs have been absolutely visceral against. You know, even Theresa May has taken to Twitter to say she is disappointed and disgusted at what's happened here. So you've got to ask, what kind of future is there in the Conservative Party for this guy who's been on the backbenches for a long time, and the only thing he seems to be adding to our debate is by following some nitty-gritty policy procedural thing when there's a real legitimate problem here that should have been addressed. You know, the Conservative Party is desperately trying to look in step with modern Britain and tackle these kind of crimes, yet instead the headlines across several newspapers tomorrow and across the website are saying this one guy has stopped this thing, but Theresa May and the government has said we will get this into law eventually, but it's pretty bad PR.
So his issue isn't so much upskirting, his issue is a procedural one, but nonetheless, this is such an important topic, isn't it? And everyone assumed that it would sail through because it is so disgusting what is going on. And we were talking earlier, and you've had experience, or certainly known people who've had this experience.
Yeah, so I think, you know, one thing that I really want to say is that like 85% of women aged 18 to 24 have experienced some form of street harassment in Britain. The thing with upskirting is that, as we saw in the CCTV earlier, sometimes it can happen to you and you don't even know. But what I want to say is that when you are harassed in the street, it really hampers your ability to participate in social life. You become nervous walking down certain streets, walking in the dark. I know so many women who plan their entire nights around making sure that they can get home in a way that means that they don't have to go down certain streets at certain times of night. And, you know, just in the commentary section on the same page here, we have Nick Freeman saying that one thing that women should do to stop this is not wear short skirts. Is he really suggesting that a price that women should pay for the freedom to wear what they want to wear is that they don't feel safe walking the streets of Britain today? It's absolutely absurd. And it goes to show that, yes, this seems like one guy who's just out of touch, but this attitude of, well, how did you, as a woman, how did you invite what happened to you, is still so prevalent, and we need so much more education and responsibility being laid at the feet of the men who do this.
Sebastian, do you think procedure needs to be looked at in the House of Commons, that it's actually possible for somebody to stop a private member's bill that everyone agrees needs to go through simply by saying they object?
It is important to have private members' bills as part of the parliamentary system because it's a way of getting non-government legislation onto the books, essentially. As I said, this came from a Lib Dem MP. The way this happens, I think there's certainly going to be some examination of that. But I think there's also a question about what on earth was Theresa May's government doing? Because they told everybody, it was in all the papers, this was going to sail through, it was going to get the support of the government. They were very pleased about this. Yet they know that Sir Christopher and his colleague Philip Davies, who also objected to private members' bills, always do this, as you were saying earlier. You know, every time these bills come through...
Well, there's a list of them here. He's voted against safeguarding wild animals. He's voted against protecting police dogs. He's voted against national standards for taxi licences, all things that most of us would like to see.
Yeah, and I just think, you know, if this is what you go into politics to do, to stand up and stop legitimate bills going through that will help the social good of the country, you need to ask yourself, what on earth are you doing? What's the point?
I'm sure that will run that story.
Now, as you may have seen, cries of shame echoed across the House of Commons today when Sir Christopher Chope derailed attempts to make upskirting a criminal offence. It was thought that the bill, which would outlaw the practice of taking photographs up a person's skirt without their knowledge or permission, would go through unchallenged. Many thought his decision incomprehensible, unfathomable, until they went back to look at his previous voting record on a whole range of issues and private members' bills. We play you out with what has been quietly nicknamed the audacity of Chope. Good night.
Voyeurism Offences Bill, second reading.
No. Objection taken, second reading. Second reading what then?